Welcome back everyone, it's here, and today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, of course, Satan is not a pogo stick. The original OP is u/Hogwarts alum 99, posted January 10, 2016 to r/relationships. My 27 female, boyfriend 30 male of 10 months. Flipped out when I wouldn't keep my clothes at his place anymore. I'm looking for some advice with my relationship with my boyfriend. I don't know where to start, and I hope this makes sense. I'm disappointed and hurt by my boyfriend's reaction when I approached him about my concerns. Please know, I'm not the petty type, nor do I ignore issues or problems. However, I make every attempt at being civil and calm when I do air any concerns. We each have our own place. A few months back, my boyfriend suggested I could keep some of my personal belongings at his house, i.e. a toothbrush, spare undies, 2 pairs, and PJs, long sleeve and pants. It made it easier in the sense that I didn't have to pack those items for when I stayed over. I stay over every other weekend. However, I've noticed that when I use my PJs or undies, they will stay in the hamper until I sleep over again. The first time we washed our clothes at his place, he said he meant to do them, but forgot. I said no problem. But if you don't want to do them, it's not a big deal, I'll just take my clothes home. He said it wasn't, and agreed it's kinda gross to keep clothes around for 2 weeks unwashed. Nothing changed after this conversation, and this continued for a few more weeks. Except, I noticed he wasn't washing his clothes either. Yesterday, I became agitated that I was washing both of our dirty clothes every time I'd stay over. My time went from being with him to being with his washer and dryer, while he's raiding or gaming with his friends on his PC. Normally this type of thing wouldn't bother me, but it's 2 weeks worth of his clothes, plus the PJs and undies I wore last time I was there. I ended up bringing all my clothes home. As soon as he noticed my clothes were missing, he flipped out. He accused me of leaving him, not the case at all. I waited until he was done yelling and, in a soft, calm voice, explained to him that I didn't want to leave my clothes there anymore because they are always dirty and I wanted to clean them. Furthermore, it wasn't fair of him to expect me to wash all of his clothes when I'm there. I told him when I come over I'd like us to hang out, but find it difficult when I'm washing all of his clothes. He went on about having to work all the time. He works 10-hour days, 4 days a week, while I only go to school. I'm in a full-time post-grad program. Then he told me to grow up. He hasn't spoken to me since then. Reddit, I'm at a loss. I really don't need him to wash my clothes. Having them there was supposed to be convenient. Instead, it's frustrating. What is going on? Top comments. Deleted user. He's mad that you aren't doing his laundry anymore. Dripless cactus comments. You only stay over every other weekend and he uses that time to hang out with other people in gaming? You know, he might have a point. It's time to grow up and start dating a grown-up who actually respects you. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the replies. I still haven't heard from him. I will update as soon as possible. I just can't believe how much this hurts. I don't have any issues with him gaming. In fact, he's got me into playing Fallout 4, but unlike him, gaming isn't my only interest and isn't always my idea for quality time. Anyways, I'm turning in for the night. Thanks again. Too long didn't read. 30 male boyfriend flips out when I bring my clothes home to wash them. Hasn't spoke to me since yesterday. Update. January 15th, 2016, 5 days later. After 3 days of silence, I decided to call it quits. I tried texting him, but he wouldn't respond. Eventually, I called his cell phone and left him a voicemail explaining how deeply hurt I am that he yelled at me, and how I feel even worse now that he won't respond to me. I told him I felt that it was important to me to have open and honest communication between the two of us, and since I have no idea where he is or what is happening, I assume that we are over. I told him I wished him the best and I hoped he could find some happiness and ended the call. 3 minutes later, my phone rings. It's him. I pick up and he starts bawling about how sorry he is and how he didn't want things to go that far. How all he wanted was to be able to play his games in peace, but realized he also wanted me. He asked me to take him back. I told him that he lost my trust and hurt me over a trivial thing. I told him I need time to think about what I want. He hung up. So, it's over. Officially. Part of me is really sad, but I know I'll get over it. Right now I just want to focus on me, and when I do find someone, they will know how to do their laundry. Thanks, Reddit. Too long didn't read, no longer together, but I'm just going to focus on my program. Top comment, Sleeky999. You did the right thing. Don't second guess yourself. Someone this explosive, passive-aggressive, and controlling is a poor prospect for a long-term relationship. Good for you for seeing the signs and getting out. Yeah, he fucked up big time, because what was obviously happening was he saw every message and every call coming from his girlfriend, but just actively ignored it. Was actively checking them, knew exactly what he was doing, and thought that if he played hard to get, she would eventually apologize, crack and break, and come crawling back to him, and come back to doing his laundry for him. But instead, the moment that he heard the voicemail and heard the fact that he was now single, suddenly he's instantly able to respond after 3 days of ignoring her. Crazy. Especially with that soft throwaway line of, I didn't think it would get this far. Definitely sounds like he knew that he was doing some manipulative bullshit, but didn't realize how quickly this shit would backfire on him. But overall, this is an insane thing for OP's boyfriend to get upset about. You're taking your clothes home because I'm not washing them when you're gone? How dare you even consider that? Are we breaking up now? And then fucking ghosting her for 3 days. Dude, you turned your girlfriend into a fucking housemaid and are now upset when she doesn't want to have to wait for her own clothes to be cleaned by her 2 weeks after she had worn them. She wanted them to be clean when she showed up every other weekend, only to find out that not even the boyfriend's clothes were clean, and there were 2 weeks worth of laundry for her to do every time she showed up, while he was just playing games and doing whatever. But real quick, considering the fact that she's playing Fallout 4, which is a single-player game, I wouldn't be surprised if this couple did parallel play, which is essentially just when you be alone together, pretty much, and it's fairly common with neurodivergent people, and of course outside of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was a scenario where they would both play a single-player game and just enjoy existing in the same space together. Hell, I do that all the time with friends. But the only reason why I bring this up is because of the idea of him potentially ignoring her to go play games, but to me, it sounds like that they might, or may have, I guess past tense, considering this was nearly a decade ago, may have practiced a lot of parallel play, and that was the reason why she didn't really seem too upset by that. But I'm still secondhand upset for her for the fact that while she was doing laundry, he couldn't even help. He was more busy doing raids and whatnot while she was doing his 2 weeks worth of laundry. Not even helping with folding it or anything. Like, damn, bro. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, of course, Satan is not a fucking pogo stick. The original OP is U/R throwaway 451, July 23rd, 2019 to R/relationships. I, 31 female, cut contact with my parents. Sister, 25 female, wants me to reconnect with them. Background. I was a difficult child growing up, to use my mother's favorite term for me. The oldest of 5 kids, never interested in boys, really into science and math, etc. My mom especially kept trying to pressure me into more traditionally feminine pursuits, and, starting in my junior year of high school, started trying to set me up with boys from families she approved of. Arranged marriages are common in my parents' culture. We fought a lot. I was able to get through all of that, and, thanks to scholarships, was able to go to college. My parents grumbled, but I have a passion for a field that happens to be very high paying, and my mom wasn't subtle about pushing me to get an MRS degree. I had to Google what that meant, and literally is just a miss degree, as in going to college to get married. Things came to a head when 3 things happened all at once. I got a terrific job offer from a major company in my field. It required me to move to another state, but they'd pay me to finish my degree. I took the offer immediately, which gave me the independence to do the 2 other things. I came out as gay. My parents went back and forth between refusing to believe me and insisting that it was wrong and brought shame on our family. And finally, I converted to another religion. At the time, I was getting serious with a woman of a different faith than the one I'd been raised in, and while I didn't convert purely because of her, she was a factor. My parents did not approve, to say the least. In short, the resulting series of fights led to my parents declaring that if I took this job and continued on my course of being a lesbian and converting to this other religion, they'd disown me. I let them disown me, and completely cut contact with everyone in my family except my little sister. She was still living at home with my parents, and we'd always gotten along very well. So, I quietly kept in contact with her. I haven't seen or spoken a word to my parents or anyone in my family except my little sister in 7 years. I'm still working for the same company, now in a higher level position that gives me a very comfortable living. I'm also now married to a woman, not the one I'd been dating when I cut contact with my family, but of the same religion and faith is important to us both. I have a lovely little girl, my wife's from a previous heterosexual marriage, and through IVF, I'm now pregnant. Our wedding was a small, private thing, mostly with my wife's family and some friends. No one from my family was present. Now, a few days ago, my sister was in a car accident, drunk driver, and she's not at fault. But I was able to step in and cover her medical bills since her job doesn't pay enough for how badly she was hurt. I was on the phone with my sister talking about possibly coming to visit, and we were talking about whether my daughter should come with me when I suddenly heard my mom's voice yell, "Daughter?" My mom was apparently visiting my sister and grabbed the phone away from her. She started screaming at me about how could I have a daughter? Why did I not tell her I was getting married? How could I steal her grandchildren from her, etc.? Eventually, I snapped, told her, "I have a daughter. You do not have a granddaughter," and hung up. Predictably, my social media and phone have been blowing up with my parents and relatives who think they have a right to my life and my daughter, and child or children I'm pregnant with, after they disowned me for pursuing a life of my own, being gay and converting to another religion. They've really focused on my daughter especially. I'm apparently the first of my parents' children to have kids, and my parents have gone nuts with our granddaughter. I blocked everyone I can, and my wife, who's been a champ about the whole thing, already took precautions to make sure no one can do something crazy like I've read about estranged parents polling on this forum, trying to pick up our daughter from school without us, breaking into our house, etc. Problem is, my sister thinks I'm being mean. She'd like to meet my wife and her niece without hiding it from the family, and thinks I can meet my family somewhere in the middle. My gut feeling says no. My family burned their bridges years ago, and I don't want my daughter exposed to people who think I'm sick, shameful, and sinful for living my life the way I've chosen. My wife agrees. Still, from someone who's not intimately tied up in this mess, am I being unfair to my parents? Should I hear them out, or should I just keep stonewalling them? Too long didn't read, cut contact with family over lifestyle choices 7 years ago. Recently was put into contact with them on accident. I think I should keep them out. My sister wants me to try to reconcile. Not positive what I should do. Top comment, I see wheel. She'd like to meet my wife and her niece without hiding it from the family. She can do that without any action on your part to make up with your parents. Tell her she's welcome to visit you and your family anytime she likes. Do not engage in discussion about these other people. Your sister is 6 years younger and has only heard your parents' side of what happened when she was 12? She's plenty old enough now to understand that you've made your own decisions for your life and she should respect them. Update, July 28th, 2019. First, I had no idea my question would get so much interest. Second, everyone was damn near unanimous. After talking with my wife about it, I did a version of what a lot of people suggested. I sent my sister an email explaining my feelings about our family. I'm not completely set on staying no contact with my parents, but if there is going to be any reconciliation, they are going to have to make the first move. I am a lesbian, a religion, and a career. And these things are non-negotiable under any circumstances. If my parents cannot or will not accept these parts of who I am, the rest of me and my life are off limits. They disown me. If they want me to be a part of the family again, that's completely on them to accept me for who I am. I told my sister that I'm open to meeting her, but only on my terms. I live near a big city, and I'd be happy to take her out to lunch or dinner in the city. My wife and daughter will not be present. Any discussion of where I actually live is forbidden, and if I see my parents, I'm leaving immediately. Only if I'm satisfied with the first meeting will I consider bringing my wife and daughter to another meetup. What I didn't expect was an email I got from my second brother. He was the middle child of the family and joined the military after high school. I can't say I ever knew him well, and he was on deployment when I cut contact with my family, but I got this email from him. Hey, name. If you delete this email right away, I understand, but there's things I need to say. I know I didn't say anything to mom and dad when we were growing up or when you went your own way in college. I should have. Guess I'm a coward. Dad respected my decision to join the Navy, but I didn't tell him a big part of why I did. I joined the Navy in part to get away from mom and dad and everyone else. They were just as controlling to me and brother and other brother as they were to you and sister, just in a different way. I didn't see it then, didn't think about it that way back then. I should have. Easier to pretend I agreed and just go along, and now it's easier to make up excuses for why I can't visit home. What they're doing now scares me. I met a wonderful woman last year, and we're thinking about getting married. We agreed that if we get married, we'll want to start a family. I see what our family is doing now to you and your daughter, and I don't want that happening to me, my wife, or my children. I need to think about them, not just me. And while I've never cared much about religion, it's important to my girlfriend. And if we marry, I'm going to convert to make her happy. I doubt mom or dad will take it any better from me than they did from you, even though my girlfriend is religion A and you're religion B. I think I need to do what you did and cut our family out of my life. Mom and dad forced you to do it, but I think I need to do this now. If you never want to see me again, I understand. I'd feel the same in your situation. But the next time I have to leave, I'd like to apologize in person if you'll let me. Years too late, I know, but I'm sorry for not saying anything, and I'm sorry for not standing up to you. Love, brother. I was able to meet my brother today, and I think he's sincere. He's horrified by how our family has been treating me because I have a child now that he's looking at getting married and having kids of his own. We were still sitting together at the restaurant when he sent an email to the family announcing that he's severing, followed by him blocking everyone. My sister just told me she'd think about it, and I haven't heard another word since. Thanks everyone for the kind words and for encouraging me to stick with my gut. Too long didn't read, didn't take the nuclear option, but stuck to my guns and found out a brother has chosen to sever from the family to protect his own family. Update. August 3rd, 2019. Posted to r/legal advice. Florida. Grandparents forcing visitation rights. I'm in Florida. My parents are in Texas. Situation. 7 years ago, I severed all contact with my parents. They disowned me because of my homosexuality and conversion to another religion. I have since moved to Florida and married. I have a young stepdaughter, my wife's, from a previous heterosexual marriage, whom I am very close to. 2 weeks ago, I was accidentally put into contact with my parents again, and my parents learned that I have a daughter. At the time, I made a post about this in relationships. I have maintained my complete silence with my family, except for one sister I'd been in discreet contact with, and a brother who has decided to sever our family over seeing how they're treating me and my daughter. This morning, my sister informed me that my parents are seeking legal options for the court to force them to have access to my daughter via grandparents' rights. My sister, and therefore my parents, do not know my daughter is not biologically mine, and therefore not related to them. My wife and I are in a very stable middle-class situation and are working on having another child. As such, and because my parents are out of state and disown me because of my sexuality and religion, I'm pretty sure this is a bluff, but I thought I'd ask here. Do I have anything I need to worry about legally? Too long didn't read, severed from parents years ago. Parents found out I have a child they don't know isn't biologically mine. Parents are considering legal action to force visitation rights. Want to know if I should be concerned. Relevant comments. Scroot. So your parents are wishing to assert grandparent rights over a child that is not their biological grandchild. I don't see how they could be so confused as to think they have any rights to a non-bio step-grandchild. If you adopt this child, then they might take a step closer to a legitimate claim. However, in the same way that if I stand on the bottom rung of a ladder, then I will be one step closer to the moon. OP responds, they don't know she's not their biological grandchild. As far as I know, she's technically my stepdaughter, but I don't call her that, and she doesn't call me her stepmother. She was only 2 when I married her biological mother. To her, I'm short mom, to contrast my wife, who is tall mom. Final update/comment. Update for those curious, my sister says my parents talked it over with a family friend who works in law, and the friend pretty much laughed them out of the room. Thank God that didn't escalate, but just imagine the fucking entitlement, like to just think like, oh yeah, no, you're just not allowed to be part of the family. You're disowned in the entirety. You're just not welcome around us anymore. And then finding out after disowning them in 7 years of no contact that they've moved on, have been married, and have a child, and suddenly thinking, oh, I'm entitled to grandparents' visitation rights, which this isn't my first time looking into grandparents' rights, and normally the way that works is the grandparents had to have had contact with the child within 3 years. So the fact that they've never met this grandchild and haven't been a part of OP's life for 7 years, yeah, no wonder they were laughed out of the room. Let alone the fact that it's not even biologically OP's. Granted, there will be a biological child in the way, but they won't know that. On the other hand, I do hope that OP did actually manage to rekindle the relationship with their brother, but honestly, I'd probably consider limiting visitation with the sister or communication with the sister until she proves that she understands the situation that OP is in, because there is some stuff going on that definitely raises an eyebrow that makes me wonder if the sister's playing both sides. Or was, in this instance, considering this was almost 6 years ago. God damn. This post was collected by Lucy Aria Rose, and their tagline is, "I'm keeping the garlic." Original poster is u/minimum wage max bullshit, posted March 25th, 2025. My friend invited my ex-husband to her wedding, so I had to leave. I, 37 female, left my husband, Darren, 37 male, 2 years ago, when our eldest daughter, now 19, came out, and he physically attacked her for it. We have 4 children, and I have sole custody over the 3 who are young enough to be covered by custody agreements, which Darren has tried to fight me over for the past 2 years, but when you have a criminal record for beating up one child, the courts are unlikely to give you custody of the others. Darren and I were in the same friendship group since primary school, but my friends told me they have all cut contact with him. I went to my friend Rachel's, 37 female, wedding this weekend when I spotted him at the ceremony. Because it's a wedding and an important day for my friend, I chose not to acknowledge his existence. It was a big wedding anyway, so I thought I could just avoid him and have a conversation with Rachel about his presence at a later date because she deserved to enjoy her day. However, when I was looking at the seating plan for the reception, I saw both of our names, one after the other. Rachel had put our group, including Darren, on the same table. My 2 other friends from this group convinced me to take my seat because we hardly get to see each other anymore, promising that they had no idea why Darren was invited and vowing to make him regret being born if any drama started. Darren sat next to me, greeted me with a "Hey babe," as if we were still together, and I could not cope with being in his presence. All I could think about was desperately trying to restrain him while my second eldest called the police. I downed my glass of Prosecco and walked to my hotel. Yesterday, I got a message from Rachel saying her mom asked her to invite Darren, and Rachel said yes because her parents were paying for most of the wedding. Rachel's mom is Darren's godmother. I asked her about the seating plan, and again, she said that was her mom's doing because she was adamant that there was a potential for us to get back together. She apologized for not telling me, saying that she thought I wouldn't go if I knew, which is true. I wouldn't have come. I have not replied to that message and I don't plan to. As much as I don't want to give up on an over 3-decade-long friendship, I can't get past this. OP's comments. Commenter. Also, fuck any friends who convinced her to stay and actually sit at the table. Why the fuck didn't any of them at least offer to swap seats so she didn't have to sit next to the piece of shit that she should probably have a restraining order against? OP responds, "Thank you. My eldest has a restraining order, but because his actions were towards her and not myself, I don't really have the evidence to be granted one in the UK." Another commenter. I assume, since Rachel is from the friend group, that she knows what he did. I also assume, because you've been friends for 30 years, that she knows your children. If these 2 facts are true, then she needed to protect you. This was unforgivable. OP responds, "Yeah, my children call her their auntie, and she and her husband helped me pack up our lives after what he did. I still can't wrap my head around why she didn't even warn me." OP on her reaction. I was very mindful of the fact that my ex is still trying to drag me through the courts for access to my 3 younger children, and if I had reacted how I wanted to, it could be brought up further down the road. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so quiet. Another commenter, "You're a badass, and I hope to be the type of mom you are. You did the right thing. You respected your friend's wedding. Your friend and her mother disrespected you and your kid. Also, the suggestion you would rekindle something with the asshole who assaulted your kid for coming out makes me seriously concerned about being around these people at all. If your friend was your friend, she would have said no, that isn't going to happen. He's a piece of shit. End of story. Sorry you had such a shit experience. Sorry your kid's coming out was traumatic, instead of the celebration it should have been. But you're amazing, and I hope you're surrounded by people who see and support how great you are." OP responds, "Thank you so much. I can't believe I wasted so much time on this man. I'm just so grateful that my children weren't there. Looking back, I'm thinking that his presence is why they weren't invited. My eldest has a restraining order against him." 7 hours later, commenter, "You might need to warn your oldest of what happened in case your ex-friends try and contact them over you going no contact." OP responds, "We had a conversation with her when I got home and she has blocked Rachel and her husband." Update post, March 26th, 2025, the next day, 35 hours later. Thank you to everyone for their support in the comments. Before I get into the update, I noticed a couple of comments pointing out my mistake with Soul/Soul custody, and I'm just grateful that I have a solicitor for custody stuff because if I make a mistake and it doesn't come up with a wiggly red line under it, I will not pick up on it. Anyway, I did not reply to Rachel and just blocked her, but her husband called me yesterday. He apologized, but then went on about how hard this is for Rachel and how she feels that the day was tainted for her. I told him that how she sees her day is not my responsibility, and I ended up blocking him as well. I talked to one of the members of the friend group and he apologized for convincing me to even sit down at the table. He said he thought more about him wanting to have the group back together than how it would affect me. He then told me about how Darren told Rachel's family members who asked where I was that me seeing him reminded me too much of our son who died 2 years ago, and I had to leave. He was referring to my daughter, who is a very much alive trans woman. Apparently no one in the group attempted to correct him, so I have just removed myself from our group chats and I'm gonna try to make better friends. Also, thank you to the people who wish my daughter well. She wanted me to say that she really appreciates it and she is starting to thrive, despite the mental scarring and tinnitus her sorry excuse for a father gave her. I could not be prouder of how far she has come in her journey, and in September, she will be the first person in my family to go to university. She is taking a page out of the Petty Queen's book and getting her revenge with a life well lived. OP's comments. Commenter, I gained a daughter too just before Christmas. She's still finding her feet but enjoying all the new outfits I'm making on the sewing machine. OP responds, aw, those outfits must mean the world to her. Commenter, what do your other kids think why they can't see their dad? OP responds, my second eldest saw what he did, and the younger two saw the state he left their sister in. They were 7, 8, and 11 at the time, so they were old enough to be aware of the situation. They do talk about missing having a dad sometimes, but they don't feel safe around him, and my second eldest is petrified of him. Commenter, that's horrifying. I grew up witnessing violence in my home, and that stays with a person. Have you considered counseling for the family? OP responds, I'm so sorry you had to go through with that. They're all in individual therapy through the NHS and their schools, but I will try to get us a referral for family counseling. I'm glad OP is looking for a different friend group, because if I found out that my friends wanted to get the band back together pretty much and were willing to overlook the fact that my husband had beat our child because they missed the old days and weren't willing to either stand up to their mother and be like, hey, I don't know if that's a good idea if there's any chance of getting them back together because, after all, Darren did beat their child. But no, of course, securing funding for the wedding is far more important than, putting a domestic violence survivor right next to their abuser after, of course, he beat their daughter. That's not even going over Darren's despicable and deplorable behavior at the fucking wedding. But hey, now that friend group gets Darren back at the cost of OP. But as they admitted, they're more willing to see everyone get back together and have the friend group all put together, and completely overlook the fact that Darren beat his child and have no care for the consequences this would have on OP's mental health. Hell, Rachel even admitted the fact that if OP knew, they probably wouldn't have come, so they hid this from them. I can't even imagine being in OP's shoes and finding out that for the last 2 years after what had happened, that your friends were more upset with the fact that the friend group had to be split up than with the fact of what Darren did. Because if they truly found his actions to be deplorable, then they would have stood up for OP. They would have defended them. They would have been by their side. But no. I'm glad that OP did what they did, because in the process of leaving the wedding, not only did they show that they respect themselves and have no intention of dealing with this kind of bullshit or headassery from anyone, no matter how close they are, and they are more than willing to stand up for their daughter, even if it means cutting ties with people they've known for 30 years. Good on you, OP. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code OZ at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code EYES directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code EYES at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.